Ladies and gentlemen, we will resume the Icon Smart now with plenary session with speakers. Number 1, Associate Professor Dr. Anchana Prathep from Prince of Songkla University, Thailand. Number 2, Professor Dr. Junji Shitaka from Yokohama National University, Japan. The third one is Professor Dr. Basharuddin from University Putra, Malaysia. The fourth one is Professor Dr. Hadi Suyono from Malang State University, Indonesia. And the fifth one is Professor Dr. Sulkarmin Muhammad from University Malaya. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the moderator, Dr. Insinyur Feky Mantiri, M.Sc, Ph.D. Dr. Feky is a senior lecturer and the Vice Dean for Academics and Collaboration Affairs of the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences at Ratulangi University, Manado, Indonesia. He holds a Ph.D. in Biological Sciences from the University of Newcastle, Australia, a Master of Science in Molecular Biology and Biochemistry from Simon Fraser University, Canada, and also a B.Sc. of Faculty of Agriculture, UNPAD, from University of Samratulangi. His field of expertise and research interests include molecular biology, environmental biotechnology, and bioinformatics. The most outstanding research as performance from Faculty of Science, University Newcastle, Australia is one of Mr. Feky's awards.
Hello. I'd like to welcome all of you today here to the third Icon Smart. My name is Feky Mantiri. I am the chair or moderator for the first plenary speaker, which is Dr. Anchana Prathep from Prince of Songkla University, Thailand. Please, Dr. Songkla. Before we proceed to her presentation, I'd like to introduce Dr. Anchana Prathep by reading her short biography. Dr. Anchana Prathep, she's an associate professor, currently being evaluated for professorship from Prince of Songkla University, Thailand. She holds an administrative position as a director of Center for Excellence in Biodiversity of Peninsular Thailand. And she is now the Dean of Faculty of Science, Prince of Songkla University. Her contribution to the academic and related association include steering committee members of Ocean Remote Sensing for Coastal Habitat Mapping, specialist of the International Union for Conservation, IUCN Seagrass Red List Authority. She did her PhD in Biological Science in the University of Liverpool, UK, and B.Sc in Biology from Prince of Songkla University, Thailand. Her research interests include the biodiversity and ecology of seaweed and seagrass across Thai coast and Indo-Pacific Ocean with various collaborators and sectors. She's also interested in the climate change, blue carbon, and try to understand how these organisms help and respond to such scenario. She has written a lot of publications, which I cannot mention here one by one. And today, Dr. Anchana Prathep is delivering a talk that she entitled Okay. Networking, a better way to learn and share our knowledges and lead to a greater impact. So without further ado, please join me to welcome Dr. Anchana Prathep. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
You have
Thank you
20
very
minutes presentation and 5-minute Q&A session.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you, Professor Feky. Good morning, everyone. This is a very different setup that I'm usually as academia. You stand at the podium and you talk. This is fantastic setup, I think. And welcome people at home through the hybrid system. The number is great. Overall, we have maybe 1,000, which is fantastic. So thank you for the opportunity. Also, it's important to mention Professor Benny. His energy is so fantastic. So I have to keep up with that energy as a first speaker. So welcome to the talk. As Professor Feky mentioned, I'm a marine biologist by training. I'm into the conservation, ecology, and move a little bit further into the climate change. So that's my background in research. But as a dean, you probably can't talk much about your own research. But I have a touch of it because you can't say no to who you truly are. But as a dean, the title as mentioned, networking, a better forward to share our knowledge, either in teaching, learning, researching, and I believe that is going to lead us to a greater impact. This event is actually one of the networking, as we can say. Yeah, so my name there, and then the team that put together the networking. So when we look at us, I'm come from Thailand, but we are actually look at it as a Southeast Asian region, right? Malaysia, Indonesia, and also our colleague nearby, the Philippines and all that. So I think we have a lot in common to share. The scenario, for example, we have similar culture, diversity, resources, or even the problems. So it's good opportunity to kind of get together and have this kind of event to be able to really share whatever our interest, problem. So to make it better, how we can do that. So I have the next slide, please. Even we have it as our networking. We also have this professor from Yokohama. So the networking is important. The region itself is important, but we can't say no to the global network as well. This is some of the history that for PSU perspective, that we have the collaboration with the Indonesia, right? When we look at it, we also have the SDG goals that we have to carry on as academia. What we are trying to do is actually look at it as a quality of education. So many deans here, through many networks, how we can help improving the quality of the education. Our knowledge is certainly going to improve the climate action. As mentioned, I'm the marine biologist by training. I'm a conservationist. So what I can do is bringing something into this in terms of the climate change, in terms of life below water. So that's probably my expertise. But as mentioned, we are here as a networking. We are trying to reach the goal number 17, right? The partnership for the global impact, for the certain goals, right? We also have this kind of title. But I think to get together, we can reach so many different goals. What I'm trying to say today, probably more toward, as mentioned, the education, a little bit of my research on the climate change and life below water, right? Now, let me zoom into what I'm trying to say. I'm selling here is the better way for the learning. When we have the pandemic, we cannot have it on site. But what we learn is we come up with this kind of program called COI, which is stand for, have to go back a little bit, stand for the Collaborative Online International Learning. So there is a great benefit of that. I'm going to tell you further into details, and this kind of concept, I think is quite important, right? So this is some of the example that we have run it through our faculty members with the collaboration from various universities. If you look at the number, we have certain projects, we have certain university, we also have many participants. The win not just only for the PSU student, but also from the various students that come to join the COI project. With the pandemic, luckily, Zoom become very common. Now today we can do hybrid. We have Microsoft Teams, we have certain technology that can help build up the learning to be more fun. As mentioned, look at the name again, the COI, Collaborative Online International Learning. Previous the pandemic, when we do the research, when we do the teaching, normally it has to be face-to-face, but with this COI, we can do further. And there are a lot of wins under this COI program, which I'm going to mention further. So next slide, please. So what actually is COI, right? COI is actually a way of learning through the online. Two parties, three parties come together. There is certain structure that if we are as an academia, teacher coming to learn, there is a certain section structure, ice breaking, introduction, the teamwork, how to evaluate. And what the win of the COI actually, because we can gather the team as a network here. We can have many institutes, many different faculty to join the program. And then those are the benefits that is listed down there. I wouldn't go into detail, but you can read it. And then next slide. How COI is work, right? It's quite easy because it comes, as mentioned, a very clear instruction, right? To follow of the COI, 4 to 12 weeks to develop the program, the learning together. And as mentioned, there is a certain structure there. You can put it at ice breaking as the discussing project. So if 2-3 university faculty come together, they can discuss the project. They can come up with certain structure that how you run that. And it takes only 4 to 12 weeks to run this kind of program, right? Next slide. Please. So what is the win of the COI actually? If we look at it, the win would be, as we come from different parts of the country, the region, the student will learn different language. They will deploy the English, right? But underneath the language, there is actually different diversity of the culture. So COI going to help bringing our students into better English, better diversity, and they can then be a very global citizen that we like them to become as our students. So those are some of the wins. What the role of the student, what the role of the professor that like to join this. The COI project actually developed by the team in US in 2000, but it's not going to go very quickly until the pandemic. And our university at PSU, we also adopt this, and it's become quite successful. Even we say that the pandemic is kind of slowed down, but with this, I think should be stick because it's a good way for the student to learn, right? So that's the benefit and how the student responsibility. The professor also have a good responsibility of what they have to do to run the COI. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, as mentioned, it's quite easy for me for the COI because it's already say who doing what, how we going to work it as a team, what to decide, who is the player there. So there is a certain setup, there is a certain structure, which also I like to promote and invite everyone here that interested doing this COI with our university. We are very welcome and we think it's a good opportunity, a good learning also for the students. Next slide, please. So how to set up? Actually, because we have, for example, I'm probably a seagrass biologist or marine biologist. I'm run this course also at PSU. But each individual also have the course back home, right? So basically, we just join force. We can develop the idea, the concept together. So the lecturer comes sit down, planning, decide the course together. The student also have to play the role in discussing, identifying, and work it as a team player. And then at the end, they also have to learn how to give the feedback, evaluate the course and the learning. So that's how they set up as the COI project. Next slide, please. So what else, how we can set up? These are some of the examples. Next slide, please. For example, this is some of how we can develop the COI project, right? This is example from the Mexico and US. The class can be artificial intelligence, but in US, it can be Spanish. They can join force, develop the topic together, and it's become smart technology for everyone. And then the student take time and spend learning on this. It's not necessarily to be the hard science, but remember that we are trying to build certain skill for our student. The language, for example, the cultural diversity, for example, the teamwork, for example, the way how can they express themselves, time management. So this kind of a very good strategy for learning, right? The next one, please. Another example, this is from Turkey and the US, right? People have the class in forensic science. The other have the class in photography. They develop, the lecturer get together, develop a class title called photographic evidence, right? So with this, not necessarily to be exact same topic, but the topic that you think that professor is interested, develop it together. It would be a good win for our student, right? So that's how the COI can develop the topic. Big win going to be for the student. The technology, the Zoom, the hybrid is already there. So that's how I like to promote networking in terms of learning and teaching. Next slide, please. So look at this. It's a quick metrics that we can look. If we have a good technology, okay, video conference, audio, that's a good way. The student can have a very good interactive, right? But if you don't have a very good technology, that's fine. You go the other way. But it's very good for the student to have a chance to exchange idea from one another, right? So we can put it in this matrix and try to build our student. Next slide, please. So here, if you are interested in COI, right? You have your IR or the dean can actually contact me. And then we are very open to develop the COI program. So that can be a way forward and one of the networking in terms of teaching and learning. Next slide, please. So if you are interested doing this COI, a great way for teaching and learning, you can actually scan the QR code. We're going to have the Zoom instruction going in July 2022, right? So that's another way. Teaching, learning, and networking, a good win for the student because they can learn so many things by working together, right? This afternoon also, my team is over there. We believe in teaching and learning. So the group there, maybe you can stand up, please, right? So those are the team that going to help workshopping this afternoon at 1 p.m., right? Because I think even I'm research by heart. I'm a researcher by heart. But I know that teaching and learning is very important nowadays. And have this kind of workshop, face-to-face with the student. Whatever opportunity is good for student, we should do it, right? It's kind of our responsible as well nowadays. Okay, so that teaching and learning part. Let me also skip to the next slide. Allow me to talk a little bit further about the research at our university, right? We have this kind of roadmap. I myself is a marine and coastal, right? We also have the agriculture, aquaculture. Rubber is quite important in Thailand, and also think it is also here. And then the medicine. So those are the theme for the research that we set up at the university. We also have this core knowledge, and we also have this core technology. We also have the roadmap time frame. So I just open up a little bit further about our research. Next slide, please. How we run the research at our faculty. We are develop the research and then divide it into the network as well. So the network is just within the faculty, and it can expand it into the other faculty within the university. But today I come here, I really hope that we can expand, extend our network, not just only here in this room, but also outside through the hybrid. So that we are setting up, and I truly believe that networking is quite important and it's more fun. Working alone is kind of boring sometimes, and you get tired of yourself. So have hand in hands with friends. It's always important. So the next slide. So within each network, I myself, as mentioned, I'm there. Just one more click. So that's me. I'm the director of the biodiversity. So if anyone is interested in doing research in biodiversity, you can really contact me, right? And again, I'm emphasized in this region, we share a lot of problems, a lot of resources, a lot of interest. So it's quite important to have a very good networking as well in the region. Next slide, please. So I'm quickly just try to promote and let you have a quick go through our network. This team is looking at the agriculture and biotechnology. They are the leading director there. Next slide, please. In the medicine and in the engineer, right? So the next slide. We also have a core group that interested to work in the theory. So this group is in mathematics and statistics, right? So saying that, just give you the overview of learning, teaching, and also the networking in terms of research. Allow me to give you some example of my research. I believe that doing this kind of networking is going to allow us more fun in research and also to have a very good impact in terms of research. I'm doing the carbon research. If I do it just myself, I'm going to be just only one that doing carbon in Thailand. Not very good in impact, right? Thailand is important, but if we can join force, Indonesia, Malaysia, any other country, so our result would be greater impact, as mentioned. I also believe it's important to nurture the internship program. They come in, they know nothing, but we have to open hand. So at the faculty, we have the program from internship to the Ph.D. to the postdoc. Next slide, please. So this is what we look like back home. This is my group, right? Seaweed and seagrass. We're doing research in seaweed and seagrass. As mentioned, I'm ecologist myself, but yesterday I met a professor who work in the natural product. They can certainly pick the seaweed and seagrass. And again, we can join force because the biodiversity is just there. We share so many similar things, right? Next slide, please. This is just some of the example. If we go out there in Bali Sea, I'm certain that it's very similar to the sea that I come from, either in Songkla, in Phuket. We share a lot in common. But if we can really join force, sharing what we are doing, it's going to give us a better, a greater impact. Next slide, please. Right. This is just the ecosystem service. This is what it looked like at home. But I'm certain that this is also it looked like in Malaysia. This is also what it looked like in Indonesia. Why not we share our knowledge? That's the problem. We have to be talking a little bit more and how we can join force, right? So I quickly go to this. I wouldn't go into detail much, Just next slide, please. Because by joining force, actually, we can really help the world. This is some of the example. IUCN mentioned how we can help with the climate change. Actually, seagrass can accumulate, absorb a lot of carbon. There is the scheme called nature-based solution. If we can share our knowledge, we can really say in the region how much carbon we can help storage, how this can improve the problem with the climate change. Just some of the example that it's important to really share and join our research as well. Next slide, please. Just another click, please. This is just a quick video of our research. Can just, okay. This is our research and the scenario that we are working. Again, I just emphasize, Indonesia is so big, so many islands. And by working together, I'm sure that we're going to pick up our knowledge quickly, and again, would be more fun, right? And the opportunity because of the climate change. Our nature-based solution, our resources, is actually can help. Oh, not that one. I think something wrong. That me when I was in UK many years ago. Time it up. Professor Feky mentioned this time it up. So I just finished my talk saying that if you are interested, networking just important. Teaching and learning is very clear that if we can join force using the COI, that would be a great win for our students. Working together as a network in research also would be another win. And we are very much open for any kind of collaboration that you think is going to be benefit for any of us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Anchana Prathep.
Thank you.
What a fascinating and thought-provoking presentation. If I may summarize your presentation, I think we all agree that international collaboration and networking is the way forward for higher education and research.
Yes.
We now have 5 minutes for a Q&A session. I will take 3 questions as a start. Is there any questions from the audience? Or maybe I have a question.
Yes, Professor Feky.
Any question?
I think this international conference highlight your talk for today.
Yes.
So can you please share a little bit about how your university dealt with COVID-19 pandemic in terms of delivering your teaching?
Okay, thank you. When actually the COVID happened, I'm the first one actually that we say that we shut down the faculty. Because at first we know nothing about COVID, right? We don't know how bad it's going to be. But we know that it's life-threatening at the very beginning. So I decided, let's shut down the faculty and switch everything online. Because we have the capacity to do things online. So that's how we dealt with it at the very beginning. But later on, we also understand better that the skill set is very important for the student. So we ease up a little bit. If the student want to do the lab, the skill set, they can come in, right? We have to set a very good system to really allow students, especially the postgraduate student, to come in and have their skill set, have their research going. And that's how we dealt with it at the very beginning. And throughout the years, we learn better. Professor Feky.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is there any more question? Okay, I'll take one from the Dean of Universitas Udayana and one from the Dean from Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, and also one from Dr. Denny there. Okay, please, Ibu Wati.
Thank you, Chairman. Please introduce myself as Wati, the Dean of Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences from Udayana University. I have a question. You working on seagrasses and a carbon sink. So is there any information that, as we know that Bali has some seagrass beds actually, but some of them are affected by the tourism industries, particularly for decking the boats. So is there any information about how we can manage the seagrasses, for example, and do you have any information of what, is there any differences, of course, in the impacts of environmental damage, particularly for the seagrasses and the carbon sink that you studied? Thank you.
Thank you. We actually learned a lot, actually. Maybe you can move further into some of my slides that we have the networking, and then we are able to kind of roughly calculate the carbon sink through the network, actually. So we have a representative from the Indonesia to work on this, but as mentioned, it's very roughly. And also the boat activity actually is going to be a little bit negative effect on the seagrass. So zoning and management is quite important. But I think in a way we have to learn how to deal with this kind of tourism as well. So finding a balance, zoning is quite also a way to do it, I think. The seagrass is a good thing because it's tough, right? It can survive, even it has been a lot of anthropogenic or tourism. So we kind of looking at it as a bright side, that's what I believe, but we still need a very good manager to look into our coastal biodiversity.
Very good.
You.
Thank you.
Can maybe, yeah.
The next one, Pak Nenga.
Thank you, Prof. Feky, for the chance. Actually, the presentation is really great, yes. And I'm really interested in the first part in terms of using coil with or without COVID-19 pandemic, I think. But I have some experiences in doing online learning. I think some of us here also have similar things. For us, in doing online learning, we face a great challenge. At least there are two challenges we have to overcome. The first one is about giving motivation, because we, according to my experience, there are so many reasons coming from our students to excuse themselves to be not online and so on and so on. So that is the first thing. And the second one is about evaluation process. Doing evaluation step in online learning has many difficulties. Yes, I think the reason is really normal because of human being. Looking for easier one to have a higher result. Yes, I think that is the problem. Probably based on your experiences, COIL will be good for us. And I think you have already think about anything to minimize that challenges and to have high quality results. Thank you for your chance, for the chance. That's all. Oh, my name is Inengah Suparta. Yes, I am from Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, now the Dean of Mathematics and Natural Sciences Faculty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the third question, Dr. Denny, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Feky, and also nice to meet you, Anchana. See you again. after 13 years.
After
All right,
13.
as said my Dean, Bu Wati, previously, that about seagrass in Bali. Yep, I need maybe your experience in developing of seagrass theory and also science in Thailand. Because we know that seagrass currently is still as a stepdaughter compared to coral reef and also mangrove. And then maybe do you have an idea for Bali particularly? You know, in Bali it's surrounded by seagrass. Based on my data, yep, Bali is very good on seagrass. And also we have made some map, especially in Bali. And then maybe do you have an idea how to improve, I mean, to show maybe to government or to any other stakeholder that seagrass has an important value in the incoming years and years. But now already on blue carbon, and maybe do you have an idea what's supposed to be done in the incoming time? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mendy. So nice to meet him again, actually. 13 years. And that was my first time in Bali. This is the second time and see the same face. 13 years, we've been through so many things, right? Not to mention the COVID. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. Now, when we talk about the blue carbon, it's become new currency, if they say that. Because what happened is in the COP26, they said carbon neutral. Thai government, they mentioned clearly about 2050 that they will do carbon neutrality. But they don't know how to do it yet. So what we can say to the government is not easy, but we have to show ourselves that the natural resources, that they say nature's solution would be the way forward. Because if they do a lot, they might think of green energy, better EV, so that's engineer. So let them do that. But for us, we should be able to calculate how much the carbon could be sequestered, addition to the carbon stock, and then that eventually help reducing the carbon. So in Thailand at the moment, we push very hard. So the private sector would be the one that coming in and play, because they would be the one that put the money in, and they want the carbon tax. They want the carbon credit to go and claim that they are being green. So something along the way. They are working very hard to try to convince the government and the private sector to coming in. And then we as the scientists should have a lot of saying in terms of using our knowledge to help the environment. So I can say that. And I'm looking forward for further information that we can collaborate together, Dr. Benny. Right? So can I state a little bit, go back in your point? We face the same problem, the student being lazy, right? They have a very good excuse of try to peak. So the exam probably is not a way forward to do it. So everyone has the same problem. I think our associate dean, she is very strong in teaching. And she said that we have to find a better way to assess our students. So the same way of doing things like the paper exam wouldn't be the way forward anymore. So COI, for example, you have a group of the students working together, you have a good assignment as a teamwork up, and then how to access the student. Hopefully, they would try to change the attitude, getting more involved, and slowly, bit by bit, I think, hopefully, we will teach our students have more fun in learning, right? We all face the same thing, and it's a big challenging that we should get together. And I think, again, I believe in networking. So if we can have a group of students work together, that would be a good opportunity for them as a learning process as well. Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately, we are limited in time, so I have to limit the questions to only 3 questions. If you have some more questions, you can directly ask Dr. Anchana Prathep during lunchtime, I think. So, thank you very much again for your very thought-provoking and fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution to Icon Smart.
Very
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you, Professor Feky.
Thank you.
Can I just have one of my last slide to
Sure.
present?
Yes.
Just one, the last slide, please. I'm selling some of the, because I believe in networking, right? So we are hosting this IMTGT, so you can go through it all, the last slide. So at PSU, we're going to host it in 8, 9 December, right? So anyone is very welcome. It's a IMTGT network. So we have the 4 sessions, the bioeconomy, circular economy, green economy, and the digital economy. So that divided into 4 sessions. And we are now open for the registration. That's one thing that I like to mention. The other thing would be the COI. So if anyone is interested, so please just scan. And any other question, just email me. That's my email at the bottom. Thank you, Professor
Okay.
Feky.
Thank you. Over to you, Putri.
Thank you very much.